to care first and foremost about seeing things through divine eyes, through the eyes of Jesus, through the eyes of your divine parents. However you want to look at God or this force for good, this instinct that a man, a woman, humanity has, mankind has, to do right, to think right thoughts, to say right words, and to do right deeds. And the proponents of the current establishment, the status quo, they want the opposite. They want you to just keep on with the party line, keep things going the way, believe in debt, believe this is necessary that people go in debt, believe it's necessary that we have all these dubious wars, believe it's necessary that we have poverty, believe it's necessary that we have the high crime rates that we have, believe it's necessary that we have the high abortion rates that we have, believe it's necessary that we have the high prostitution rates we have, believe it's necessary that we have the high foreclosure rates that we have, believe it's necessary that we have the high divorce rate, the high broken home rate, the high suicide rate, and on and on and on. They want you to believe it's necessary, and somehow it all makes sense in the scheme of things. It's our human nature, and we're just all screwed up. So we got to rely on these top dogs up here to tell us how to live our lives, to tell us how to think and how not to think, to tell us how to speak and how not to speak, to tell us what to do and what not to do. Well, I'm here to tell you, do the opposite of what these people tell you to do. And listen to me, and I'm telling you, give me one good reason why we can't push the egalitarian envelope to its limits. And what I mean by that is, why can't we demand sound currency? Demand a currency that's worth more every day instead of less. Demand that society at large, as a collective, shows an iota of progress over time. And that's where sound currency comes in. It would be worth more and more and more as we found easier and easier ways collectively, as a society, as communities, as a civilization, to find easier ways to supply the things we need and the things that we want. Give me one good reason why a living wage is unreasonable. One valid excuse why a living wage is not acceptable across the board. Okay? I'm not trying to marginalize anybody. I'm not trying to take from those that have chosen to get high educations and all this. But let's remember, all those people that have chosen these high educations, in a way, they're more vulnerable to being screwed up and having screwed up thinking. Because they've gone through this system. They've listened to their professors. How many of them have spoken out and debated with their professors and said, wait a minute, when something didn't seem right, when it went against their basic instinct, and they said, this goes against common decency and right thinking. This is social Darwinism that this professor is teaching me. How many have objected loudly and said, wait a minute, professor, just because you've got this great degree, how do I know that you're on the right track in your way of thinking and speaking and what you say and do, what you propose? Okay? Maybe you're wrong. Maybe you believe somebody that was wrong in their beliefs. And maybe I'm here to correct you, professor. Okay? Maybe that's what we need to do. But in terms of a living wage, you tell me, is a person that's picking your food worth any less than the most educated person on the face of this earth? No. How can anybody debate that? It's an irrefutable fact. So why on earth would you want to marginalize and subjugate somebody that's picking your food? How about a clerk working at the Burger King or the McDonald's or the 7-Eleven? You want to subjugate them? Why? What have they done? Okay, they're willing to work. They're not saying they're lazy. I mean, how many jobs aren't there for the educated ones anyhow? What if the guy working at the 7-Eleven's got a master's degree, and this happens to be all he can do? He's got to fill in a gap. There's no jobs available in his field, with his high expertise. So what's he supposed to do? He's got to do something. So all I'm saying is, give me one valid excuse why everybody cannot and should not receive a living wage. This whole idea, we've been trained to believe that some segment of society has got to be left out of the loop. So we've got this minimum wage, which is, to me, I've come up with a term and I call it criminal wage, because that's what it is. To me, It's worse than, it's legalized slavery. So it's worse than overt, in-your-face slavery, because it's subtle. It's kind of, it's in the undercurrents. Well, hey, we say, this person's just on this criminal wage because, well, they're uneducated, or they're a student, or they're young and inexperienced, or, well, it's not that bad. Compared to somebody in Mexico or China or India, hey, this person, they should feel lucky they're getting $9 an hour. Okay? I find it reprehensible. I find it immoral that anybody out there would say it's okay. It's not okay. Everybody deserves to be treated fairly. So then let's talk facts and figures. Today in 2014, what is exactly a living wage? A living wage should be based on being able to comfortably afford to purchase a home in your locale. If your locale happens to be New York City, well then your wages are probably going to be around 50, 60, 70 bucks an hour average. Okay? In San Francisco, probably about the same. If you're living in Northern California, maybe, would say $25 to $35 an hour. Okay, it's somewhere in that range to be able to comfortably purchase a home, which is going to be approximately 1/4 to 1/3 of your income max. This has been a long-standing rule of thumb for many decades, that you are considered a fool to pay more than that percentage of your income to your housing cost. Now let's talk about employment, full employment. Okay, what's wrong with the public at large demanding full employment? You say, well, there's just not enough jobs. We're basing this on a 40-hour work. Who the hell told you to base it on a 40-hour work week? See, you've been inculcated, brainwashed, indoctrinated, trained, corralled, steered, manipulated. Call it what you want, but we have been mind-effed 7 ways from Sunday, okay? All of us. So we've got to understand how fundamentally our paradigm has been perverted by the same gaggle of murderous, merciless, ruthless, diabolical, sinister, clandestine thugs at the top of the economic dog pile. And that's what it is. It all comes down to money. Remember, the love of money is a root of all evil. So if you take out the love of, it is the money. The money is the root of all evil. This power that's been conjured up, okay, it's just printed pieces of paper. And look at the power it has. So how do you level the playing field? I'll level it real quick. Okay, hire me as president, I'll tell you what. And not that I'm running. But if I was, I'd make it clear and I'd get in the money printers' faces and I'd say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call your bluff. I'm going to put government-approved money printing presses in every home. And even if that home happens to be your car, because you can't afford to pay rent or a mortgage. You get it? Yeah, we'll get to the bottom of this thing real quick. Real quick. I'll say, no, we're having damn sound currency. It's going to be backed by something finite. And it's going to rise in value instead of being diminished in value. Can you imagine the joy? How great it would feel, how freeing. That sense of security and safety and joy that you would have if your money was worth more every day, even if it was just a little bit. But if you knew this was a trend in perpetuity, this was going to go on and on and on. Until what end? Until you were completely free. Until your progeny was completely free. And their progeny. Okay, this is where it leads. And then you find out that at the root, the system does not break down. You find out that people have an instinctual desire to serve one another. And this is exactly what happens. So the system would work completely fine. This is why I say you could push the egalitarian envelope and let's explore it. Let's just find out how far we can push it. So let's suppose the most you can have is a 5 or 10 hour work week. So what? So let the machines do the work. What's wrong with that? So what am I asking you to do? The biggest challenge I'm asking anybody to do is go find something to do with your time. Let the immigrants take the job. If that's what they want to do, who cares? Okay, but we need this thing we call money, okay? Or at least we need the stuff. Somebody needs to give it to us freely as long as we're willing to serve, okay, and earn a living wage. But if not, if the jobs just aren't there, then hey, I'm not working. And nobody's going to be able to call me lazy. Okay? Nobody's going to be able to call anybody lazy. If you want to sit around and just take a cruise and say, hey, they don't want me where I'm working. You know what? See you later. Have fun. Okay, why can't we demand that kind of a reality? Well, I'm here to tell you, you can demand it and should demand it. What is written in Scripture is what I'm going by. It's written to have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather to expose them. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm trying to empower people by letting people know your worth. And you're worth every bit as much as me, or him, or her, or anybody else. And that includes the Bush, and Clinton, and Rockefeller, and Bernanke, and on. All these class of people, these top evil dogs out there. You are just as valuable as any one of these people, and probably a lot more in the sight of God. I mean, God knows us by our fruits. Nobody's hiding anything from God. You know, these people can deceive themselves till they're blue in the face. Any one of us can deceive ourselves, and we can deceive others simply by lying. Maybe we're lost in confusion, so we're deceived automatically. If you're confused about issues, then you're effectively deceived. You don't know right from wrong. Somebody told you this is right, and then somebody else told you no, that's wrong, and so you don't know who to believe, so you're in the middle. You know, if you go to any of these 12-step recovery programs, there's a whole lot of truisms that come out at these meetings. And one of them that comes to mind now is this idea that if you've got one foot in the future and one foot in the past, metaphorically speaking, then you're basically peeing on the present. And we all want to make sure that we're seizing the moments. That understanding the human species is a very dynamic creature. You know, we're always changing. We can change today with the internet. We can change overnight. Collectively, humanity as a species, the way we think and see things. So we've got to really understand we have the accumulated knowledge of the ages at our fingertips right now. All of us do. And that there's no excuse for any of us being stupid, for any of us being ignorant, for any of us being confused, for any of us being foolish when it comes to understanding the ways of the world and the people that run the world and their diabolical scheming and how wicked these people are and how so many people that just go along with this establishment, they are culpable. They are complicit. They are part of the problem, okay? Because your willingness to go along with the system and just, okay, whatever you say, I'll pay these exorbitant housing costs, and, I guess that's just the way it is. And I see prosperity's going down the tubes. The wealth disparity keeps growing, so I'm going to just embrace hopelessness and give up on trying to get ahead and just accept my place. And, if things get too bad, I'll just have to go on welfare. So you're a part of the problem, okay? Because not everybody is able to do what you do and to pay those high prices, to accept that burden. Not everybody's as strong. It comes down to the social Darwinism they're pushing. Not everybody's able to do what you do. They're not all as competent as you. They may be not all as educated as you. They're maybe not as all strong as you. They maybe not had such a good upbringing that you have. Whatever the reasons are, you better care, because we are inextricably interconnected to one another. And, everybody's going to get their comeuppance. Everybody gets what they deserve. That's why I need a clear conscience. When I go to bed at night, I pour my heart out to God. It just breaks my heart that anybody out there in this world today is in need. In need, not because they just had a hurricane come through their town. In need because this is the status quo. There's all these needy people that are going to die out in the cold. Guys that are going to get desperate and commit some crime of financial desperation. They don't care if they go to jail. They just abandon caring. Because they say, hey, at least I'll get 3 squares and, what do they say? 3 hots and a cot, And all these other benefits, health care, maybe education. But they've got to, they're incentivized, in other words, by this current system to go out and commit a crime. It's insanity that anybody out there thinks this system is okay. But when I go to bed at night, I make sure I purify my heart. And that God, if I had my way, the first thing I'd do is end poverty. Because I know if I just ended poverty, I know that put a huge wrench in the works of this Illuminati class, this New World Order, these globalist class. These people that think we couldn't live with